Hi, I'm Jonathan Jay, and welcome to Dealmakers.co.uk, the #1 place for business buying information. If you haven't taken our free video training course on how to buy a business without using your own cash, there is a link somewhere around this video. On this video, you will meet Andrew, who has bought 5 training businesses in adult education since joining the Mastermind program. Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's virtual conference. My special guest today is Andrew Norton, and we're going to be finding out from Andrew about some of the deals that he's been doing. We'll start with a little bit of background, and then we'll understand how he has bought 5 businesses, all, I believe, since the pandemic started. Is that right, Andrew?
Yep. Yeah, that's correct. Probably in the last, just over 15 months, I'd say.
In 15 months, 5 businesses in 15 months. Fantastic. Yep. We'll find out a little bit about, without breaking any of your confidentiality agreements on those sale and purchase agreements, we'll find out a little bit about, in general terms, how deals were structured. Yep. We'll get some idea of numbers. And I believe that you've grown to, what's your annual revenue now in your group?
So we've gone from about, our initial business was about 500,000 revenue to sort of 5 times, so 2.5 million.
Wow, in 15 months. And I think that if you took business growth the traditional way, which is, we had a couple of customers this week and then we lose one next week and then we had a few more and we had another contract here. Well, it's a bit of a slog, isn't it?
Yeah, that would have been a really, really slow burn, particularly in our industry. And doing it this way, one, we've been able to scale really quickly, and I'll go into more detail shortly, but yeah, been able to scale really quickly. We've been able to add in additional layers of management we couldn't before, which allows us to scale even more. And there's so many opportunities to cross-sell in our particular industry. Adding different qualifications, etc.
Great. Okay. Right. We'll go into the detail of that in a moment. Let me give everyone the format of today, in case you haven't been on. I can't assume that you've been on one of these virtual conferences before. So Andrew and I are going to talk for 30, 35, 40 minutes about these deals, and I'm going to be asking him the questions that I know people have in their minds. So I'll be asking the questions that you at home are most probably thinking. I should explain how I know Andrew, and we'll go into the background of this in a moment. But Andrew's been on. You started off on the fast track. I imagine you started on the fast track. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So the fast track program, then you went to the Mastermind, and now you're in the inner circle circle group. So after we've had our chat, anyone who's inspired to go and buy a business as a result of our conversation, and we hope they're inspired, not put off, inspired to go and do it themselves, then I'll be explaining how those people can get some guidance and mentoring from me on our fast track program. And we've actually got one next week. For those of you who want to just jump straight into this, we've got one next week. So I'll explain how that works and how you can do that. And then Andrew will come back to you for Q&A. And for me, the Q&A is always the favorite part of the conference, because everyone who wants to can ask questions, and no such thing as a silly question. So we can ask questions about the basics and ask advanced questions, ask questions about your goals for the future and all of those things. And that's our virtual conference for today. So very educational. I've got a feeling it's going to be very enjoyable as well today. It's going to be, and these things have to be fun, right? There's no point doing this if you don't enjoy it. So Andrew, could you start off, please, by just giving us a little bit of background to bring us up to speed, up to the point that you and I met, for example?
Yeah. So if I go back sort of 10 years, so I ran a childcare business for 10 years, which was a organically grown business. We did before and after school sort of wraparound childcare, and that got to a pretty scalable size. So I think on sale we were around the sort of 8.5 million mark of revenue. We had 800 odd delivery staff delivering a service, and that kind of, having that many staff and that kind of workforce, I guess, and needed constant CPD. We had a demand for training, so I set up a training company in about 2014 to train our own staff. So we're historically a childcare training business, and then I got the childcare delivery business got purchased in 2019 by an Australian company. So at the time, we were the biggest UK provider of wraparound childcare, and we got acquired by an Australian company coming into the UK for the first time. And they did a really interesting thing. And we didn't know about this until the day of completion, but they brought us and the second biggest provider in the market. And then I was on a consultancy basis for about 9 months. And I got to see the inside of an acquisition. One, of going through the sale of the business was really interesting. Two, seeing how they then merged the businesses together and they put in those layers of management that we just couldn't ever have afforded at that point. We were getting to that point, but we just weren't at the scale. So they went from sort of 8 million business to maybe a 15 million roughly. And just had so much more coverage. And it was really interesting to see what they did. So at that point, our childcare business has kind of just been simmering on the side, delivering to our
the childcare training business.
Sorry, childcare training business. Yeah, it's kind of not really growing, but kind of doing a little bit around that 500,000 mark. And it had been there at that mark for years, doing a bit of training for my childcare business, but also we'd gone into additional nurseries and other avenues. And at the point,
so let me just jump in there, because I just want to make sure everyone's clear on some of the terminology.
Yeah.
Because we have people from different parts of the world here. So wraparound childcare is that before school and after school provision. So what sort of age groups is that?
So we were primary school children.
Okay.
So 4 to 11, 12-year-olds.
Okay, so this is where maybe there are working parents who have to be somewhere at 7:30 in the morning, but school doesn't open till what time does school open? 8:45 or something.
Yeah, exactly that. So we basically run all the time. The school's not running from 7:30 in the morning till 6:15 at night, and they have a snack and things like that after school with us.
Right. So they paid you to sort of to make sure their children were looked after, safe. Probably did their homework, maybe.
Some did. And we were always based within the school site, so we didn't have additional premises or anything like that. We hired an area of the school.
Oh, right. That's really interesting. So you haven't got that sort of that transport issue or any of those. Yeah. Oh, very good. So that business was the one that I sold in 2019, and that gave me the massive learning curve, really, I think, in terms of seeing what was possible when you acquire two businesses. And so then when I sold, obviously had a bit of kind of, all right, what do I do now? We obviously had the training business as a separate organization that was still mine. So then the focus turned to the training. So let me just jump in there just to add an extra layer of explanation, because I don't want to lose anyone at the start of this. So the training. So you had all these staff delivering the before and after care, and we both know that staff in this sector need ongoing training. You can't do it once, right? It is a challenge. So you very smartly set up your own training business to train them, so you didn't have to outsource it. So you kind of kept the business in the group. Yeah,
we just found we were getting poor quality training. We thought, hang on a minute, we can deliver this, and a lot of it was apprenticeship training. So we sort of saw an opportunity there, and that's why we set up as a separate organisation to train internally. We actually did less training than I kind of expected to our own business, predominantly because of the workforce was part-time. It was before and after school, so the apprenticeship bit didn't work. The childcare business was growing too fast for the training business to kind of keep up in terms of like first aid training, the various locations we were running at.
It's a lot of staff to train, isn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't possible to drag them all into one central location, and we couldn't grow the training business out to those other locations quick enough. So we actually started to do more work as a training business with local nurseries and kind of.
Oh, right. So in actual fact, your training company was designed to train the staff in the business that you eventually sold. You actually ended up doing training for third parties as much or as more as you did for your own staff.
Yeah, more I would say in the end. So obviously started with one route, but I think things change. Once I sold the business, the childcare business, then I was thinking, right, I was focused on the training business, and having gone through that sales process of the childcare business and seeing what they did merging in, I thought, I think we could do that on the training side. And then I came across your content online. I think probably LinkedIn or YouTube, one or the other. Started watching and listening, and then attended your mastermind, and it kind of.
You're a very, very wise man.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting your video, but I wanted to introduce you to a great lawyer in the UK who can get your deals done for you. He's worked for 50 of my mastermind clients in the last few months alone. His name is John Andrews, and I've got his details right here in my little back book of contacts. You can phone him on 0345 241 2494, or you can email him on johnandrews.deallawyer@jmw.co.uk. If you want someone who can get a deal done, he is your guy. So let's get back to the video.
Just so I've got it absolutely clear, the Australian acquirers who bought your wraparound childcare business, they had no interest in the training company.
No. So yeah,
Not
they are
there,
purely wraparound childcare. They're probably the biggest worldwide provider of this sort of service. So they huge, second biggest in Australia, but then they span five countries, and they saw the UK as a huge opportunity because in Australia they have. You tend to do like 5 yearly tenders and things like that, where over here it was a bit more, you approach a school and they might say yes or no, and there's less. They get more into that cycle of tendering, but it was, they reckon we were about 7 years behind in terms of formal sort of provision over here. So yeah, they wanted to obviously maximize that, scale it. So
and what you didn't appreciate at the time is that while they were doing the deal with you, they were doing the deal with your main competitor, and then ended up putting the two together, but you were retained for 9 months. So you saw then how cultures collide. Is that the right way of putting it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It was really interesting. The good and the bad. So on the whole, I would say really, really good. They were just putting in, they got straight away the CFO, finance director level role, the CEO, sort of chief marketing officer, that kind of next level up management that I wish we had been able to have, but we were never at that scale. We had like head of finance, and we had head of marketing, we had a marketing team, but we just never had those kind of next layer of board level sort of managers.
So actually, let me just pull out a sort of a learning point for everyone here, is that individually a business might not be able to support or be at the point of scale or even the point of maturity to have those really senior staff. But when you take two businesses and put them together, for example, the one that you sold plus your competitors, which combined to make 15 million of revenue, that 15 million of revenue probably with sort of a comfortable 20% bottom line can then support those senior people that, quite frankly, a 15 million revenue business needs.
Yeah, definitely. And this is exactly what we're now doing with the training. I know we're earlier in the growth curve with this, but the fact we've been able to sort of 5x it in the space of 15 months, and we've been able to put in those new positions, not quite sort of we've just taken on an FD, fired the FD centre.
Good. Yeah, we talked about that. I remember. Yeah.
That came out of the inner circle group. That was a big, on our last meetup, that was a huge talking point, was about finance directors and whether they're part-time, full-time, hired in, and it seems that everyone had that kind of need. And we could see it. We need really strong cash flow forecasts now. We've got enough scale to warrant the position. And our next step will be to, as we grow, to obviously get that in-house full-time role along with other roles. But in the business, we've been able to put in some core management positions, and so not quite sort of all CFO level, but just really good people in really good roles.
So you sold the business in 2019.
Yes.
I would hope then that you took a around the world cruise or something. How many weeks was it before you were itching to do something else?
Probably a couple.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
I think the good thing, bad thing and good thing personally, I mean, when COVID hit, it kind of stopped obviously the world, and that kind of gave me a bit of readjustment time to think and actually slowed down what I could have rushed into, I guess, and yeah, I think, and then I was able to get my sort of ducks in order and stuff.
Well, it also you do need some thinking time. I think
Yeah.
that it's very easy when you sell a business. You know, we all think we can walk on water at that point, and it's like, right, I'm going to go and do it again. I'm going to do it bigger next time. But having a little bit of time out, you know, I know you have a family, and you know, doing that sort of family stuff is a good sort of settler, isn't it? And I think it's so easy to I promised myself I'm not going to do anything till the next financial year.
Yes,
till next April, but let's see how that
goes. Yeah.
So you started sort of looking to thinking about buying a business. Is that because you saw what the acquirer of your company had done?
Bit of both, I think. I mean, a bit of multiple reasons, should I say. So one was seeing that, and I thought, oh, that's really fun. I like that, and yeah, I could see some benefit to really grow quickly and add those levels. Two, obviously I was hungry to achieve again and achieve more. And also the big hitter, I worked for 10 years slogging away at that business, growing it. And I got paid more in one day when I exited the business than I did in the whole 10 years combined of every penny I took out of it. So I was like, yeah, my life priorities changed. I was thinking, actually, I need more exits in my life. And
but you haven't got more decades.
No, definitely not. So
it's always going to take a decade.
Yeah.
And each decade gets harder and goes faster.
Yeah, exactly. I also have a couple of other smaller businesses which we're not doing the buy and build strategy on, just because they don't quite fit. And so those have been sort of startup businesses, like my original childcare business. And one thing I have decided, like personally, I was like, now I've gone through this acquisition cycle, I don't think I'll ever do a startup again. It is all that kind of time and effort. I just think and I say this to my friends and people I'm associated with, if ever they're talking about sort of setting up a business, my instant thing is you need to be buying one, because you know, getting customers on day one, you've got customers, you've got revenue, you've got money in the bank, you've got a team. There's none of this kind of in those early days where you're sharing jobs out between. And I always think about my business and the various stages of team we had when we were scaling the childcare business. You know, in the early days, you got those people that would just do every role and help in every way. Then there'd be the team that would carry the chairs and computers up the fire exit into our new office and all this kind of stuff. And then as you get bigger, they don't want to do that anymore. They need a team to come in and put all their desks in place and plug everything in. And we had various teams along the way, I think, which you think, oh yeah, it's sort of changed. And it's so much better when you've got everything there straight away and people skilled and in proper roles.
Absolutely. I mean, the startups always seem like fun until they stop being fun. And these days, I don't think anyone can afford to sort of to not earn anything for a couple of years before a startup gets off the ground. Like you say, buy a business and you kind of plug into that business's cash flow from day one. So so what was the sequence of events? So you found me either on YouTube or LinkedIn. You came on the fast track. Was that 2019 or 2020 possibly?
It was actually 21.
No, 21. Right.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah. It was actually 21.
But just last year.
Yeah. So it would have been around probably April, June time last year.
Okay. So you joined Mastermind as well. So tell us what was going through your head. I mean, did you have a plan, or were you kind of feeling it out as you went along?
Yeah, I didn't have a solid plan in terms of, I didn't go, my initial thought was the childcare, but actually, because I run this sports league, I haven't really talked about this in any detail, I run a sports league business as well, which I mentioned about when I talked about startups. And I'm involved in a software as a service business as well that originally ran the booking system for energy kits, and that's how my childcare business, which is what I'm still involved in that business as well. And I thought, I'm going to target all those industries and just see what comes back. So in my first sort of going on onto your fast track, I think there's lots of people that obviously I haven't decided on a sector, haven't decided where they're going to go, and there's lots of different tactics you suggest to kind of make that decision and how you can go. And I just thought, actually, I like the idea of, I think one of your suggestions was just pick 1,000 businesses within an area that you're familiar with, send it out, see what comes back, and then, do you like that sector or not? And I thought, I'm going to target all 3 of the sectors, see what comes back. And it was the training that got the most kind of responses. Yeah, and then the more I was thinking about it, I was like, actually, that's a more established business. It can ride more waves, I think, than some of the others in terms of recessions and all the other things. Not without its challenges, like every.
Well, if anything, I did think this right at the start of the pandemic, that if there are going to be a larger number of people losing jobs, or as progress in sort of automation develops, there are going to be more people losing jobs, to machines.
Yeah.
Then training and upskilling becomes a government priority.
Yeah, definitely.
And maybe that hasn't really sort of I don't know whether you've seen any effect of that, but I think you're at the start of something that's just going to only get bigger. Yeah, hopefully, touch wood. And there's and what I've realized from attending and speaking to lots of people on your courses, actually there's so many sectors with opportunity, and I think there's definitely a tendency to see someone you've had speakers in, and I can't remember the guy's name, but one guy that ran the funeral place, and then Games, you've
got loads of people trying to go for that sector.
I noticed,
and I guess you got to just find what's right for you.
Exactly.
And training just worked for me, but I think there's just so many opportunities. And particularly,
there are, and people often say to me, is this a good sector? Is that a good sector? I say, well, generally speaking, it's not about whether the sector's good or not. It's whether the businesses in that sector are good or not. And what is a good business? A good business is a business that makes a profit. And if it makes a profit and it allows you to, buy the property, live in the property that you want, and have the holidays that you want, then that sounds to me like a good business.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So let's look at that very first acquisition. How did you find it? Tell us how the conversation went, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So the first thing we did, obviously, after going on your course, we've produced the letters using lots of your templates and some mending as you suggest. We sent out a campaign, and again, I think we had lots of success with our first campaign. We sent about 4,000 letters out, and I think quantity is a massive help, because I know, speaking to some other people, the people that sent the more they got sent, the more success was. From
most recently, the Inner Circle group.
Yes.
The guys who are really racing ahead are, unsurprisingly, the guys who put the effort in on that front end.
Definitely. Yeah. So our first acquisition was our smallest, and funnily enough, and it's not intentionally this way, every acquisition we've made has got bigger each time, and we certainly haven't planned it. So it was a tiny one, but it was a really good one to kind of cut our teeth initially. So it was a small business, and a holistic therapy business. It only did about 75,000 of revenue. Good profit margins though. It's a bit of a sector shift for us. So we were childcare training, and what we're trying to do, our kind of strategy is to, well, we were quite open actually at the start, and just thought, let's see what comes back. And so we didn't pick a sector, what training sector. But now what we've created is a group structure. So we've got the kind of core management team and admin team at that sort of group level. And then we've got the entities underneath. And with some of the acquisitions we made, we're actually we're not merging everything into one, because there's slightly different voices with the industries we're in now. So we've acquired a holistic therapies training company, procurement and supply training company, engineering and manufacturing, hair and beauty, and an online training company that does regulated training. And there's actually a different voice in terms of marketing and messaging for each of those. You can't talk childcare to engineering and manufacturing, but in the apprenticeship training model, that management team, that admin, the rules that we have to follow, because it's government money, is all the same no matter what the industry. So what we've been able to do is buy the kind of sector experience by buying that business, the tutors and staff and the management that are in those companies, which has been great. So we've now kind of diversified really nicely. So now we're merging the procurement and supply in with the engineering and manufacturing. So we've got similar customer bases. It's a bit more higher level training. We're mixing the hair and beauty with the holistic therapies. So that's now an entity in itself. So we've kind of been merging the entities in, but keeping that kind of high level group management.
Yeah. So from the to the outside world, sort of separate businesses. They've got separate audiences, but you've got your back end. You're taking advantages of any sort of consolidation.
All the systems are the same across the board. The quality control, all those kind of bits are centrally managed now, which is great.
What some people would say is, okay, I've listened to some of Jonathan's stuff. I understand the concept of invoice financing and of asset financing, but in this type of business, Andrew, it's a service business. There aren't any assets to speak of. How on earth do you finance a business without physical fixed assets?
So this has been the biggest challenge, which I didn't think was the initial challenge at the start, and it hasn't ultimately been a hard too hard to challenge, but we did have to have some money up front for these acquisitions. Where speaking to a lot of your masterminders and the guys in the inner circle, when they're buying those, and that's what, if I was going to go again and I didn't think of training, I would think of a company that's got assets, because people are doing some great asset finance or finance deals.
We know we're probably thinking of the same people, aren't we?
Exactly. Philip and others. They're doing some great deals. They're pulling money out to do other acquisitions. It's fantastic.
We certainly are.
We haven't. Putting money out for other acquisitions and for themselves as well, which is great. We don't have that luxury in our.
So when you haven't got any assets, it's harder to raise money to buy a business. I mean, you've got cash flow finance. But actually, to be fair, now that you're of a size, 2.5 million of revenue, which is a pretty good growth in 15 months from 500,000, you probably have actually got the EBITDA that you can borrow against.
So our tactic now, but now we've got the FD, so it's not actually started, it starts next week. We're going to get ourselves fully in order in terms of being able to take a plan to one of these finance houses and get some proper money to go and do the next level of acquisitions. So what we've learned, I guess, from the ones we've done, starting with the smallest to the biggest, the biggest is actually the easiest. That came, the first one, it was a husband and wife team that were running it, and the wife was the person who did the training delivery. Had a nice little training centre in sort of Derby area, so nowhere near where we are. Really nice, and the husband kind of did the IT and bookings and stuff like that. She had ill health, I think overly serious, but couldn't deliver the training on a regular basis as she wanted. They would love the business, and it was really about handing over to the right person that could kind of continue it in the right way. And they felt that was us in the end. And I don't think there was many buyers as well, which was helpful. So it was a small one, but what that gave us really was a really small acquisition to start with, which was kind of minimal risk, a bit of learning. But the next round of communication we did to try and get new sellers, it just gave us credibility, which was amazing. So we were getting so many more responses to everything we sent out, just because we've done it. We've already made an acquisition. Little did they know it was a tiny one, and that's really kind of been what's projected us forward from there.
And this is the philosophy, isn't it, that I do talk about a lot, which is about getting that first deal over the line as quickly as possible.
And
it builds your confidence, builds your knowledge, builds your credibility. Once you realize you can do it, you want to do it again. And you did it that first time, and you've done it four times since. So you must and you learn everything. You learn something on every acquisition, don't you? There's always something new.
Every single time, And this one, so we trusted. We felt like we had a good relationship, but we felt like we did with others, and it hasn't worked out quite as well, but it still worked out well in the end. but with this couple, we felt we really trusted in them, and we actually used them to hire the replacement trainer for the person who was running the training and doing the business. So we took their advice, and we hired someone called Donna, who's been fantastic for us and still there. And that's been really good and sort of self-managed, really. But I think from learning on this business, we had to learn quite a lot, even though it's small, fairly quickly. And then I compare it to like the latest one that we've done, which had a team of sort of 20-ish people, with layers of management, with teams of tutors, with faculty leads and things like that, which we didn't have before. That's just been fantastic, because they've got proper systems in place. They've got proper management in place, and if anything, and in fact, they would double the size of our initial business as well. So in terms of revenue, so
about $1 million.
Yeah. So at the start, that was something I was thinking, maybe I'm going to be buying ones of the similar size or smaller, but actually, in hindsight, I should have been aiming much higher.
So this is interesting, because I think it's also wonderful that you're sort of reflecting on the journey.
Yes.
And you're even now, after 15 months, you're saying, if I was to go and do that 15 months again, I might do some things differently. And it's very interesting that you should say that the £1 million acquisition was easier than the £75,000 acquisition.
Yeah,
and getting out of your comfort zone of I'm a £500,000 a year training company provider, so I can buy someone double my size. Now I'm 5 times my original size. That growth in mindset is as important as the skills of the acquisition, I believe.
I totally agree, actually. And and it was just so much easier in terms of going through the legals to actually acquire the business, to then taking it over, in terms of the record keeping they had, compared to all the ones in between as well. We've got people that didn't have finance systems, not even like QuickBooks or Xero, or spreadsheets, and sending stuff to the paper invoices to the accountants, and files not saved correctly online, and all this kind of stuff where there's just not processes, and it's kind of just harder. Not having a HR system in one of them, and all these little bits where everyone we've been able to add stuff to. Some we've been able to take bits from, in terms of, actually that's really good, let's do that in the rest of the business. Particularly the big one, they've got a learner management system that we are now rolling out across the board, because it was really good.
Interesting.
And there's no questions, actually, in terms of when we acquired, there was no questions around size, who's bigger than who or anything like that. They didn't know they were double our size. They saw us as an acquirer that had acquired at that point 4 other businesses. And it didn't even.
And I do think that new deal makers have this concern about the imposter syndrome of the seller is going to ask me all these questions and interrogate me about my experience. Well, no, you're an acquirer, and if you can do the deal that they want, then everyone's happy.
Exactly. And going back to one of your earlier points around the finance, so because we don't have the asset or invoice financing options for us, a lot of what we've done has been around some of your other strategies around deferring the consideration. So we've been spreading, with the initial acquisition, we spread over 2 years, so it was fairly small amount, but it just gave us a bit of leeway to get it going. Others we've done up to 5 years, actually, which at the start I was thinking, no one's going to do this. No, it's not going to be possible. But we structured in such a way where if we did nothing to the business, kept it running as it is, it would pay for itself out of the profits over that 5-year period. But we know we can grow all of them, and we know we can now cross-sell that the procurement and supply. We can sell it into or try to anyway, and some will, some won't, but we can sell it into the same clients that are on the engineering and manufacturing courses, because those kind of companies will 100% have people that need procurement and supply training, so they're larger organizations. So I would say deferring's been our kind of biggest thing, but we've also been taking on the debt that they've had. So lots of people have bounce back loans, CBILS loans, not all of these, actually. Some have been finance free, but where they have had it, we've been saying, we're like, leave that in there, and we just reduce the initial consideration by that amount, so that we just keep up the payments on those finance loans that they've had.
And although this is probably more a conversation for you and I in the inner circle meeting rather than publicly on this conference, I would say that one of the first jobs of your FD is to do a refinance and refinance all the deferred and any debt in the business, so you can put it onto something on a 10-year term.
Yes,
it would be better for your cash flow, and clean up the balance sheet as well. It sort of tidies it all up and puts it into one place.
Yeah, that'll be much better actually. And even one of the sellers, they actually took a loan pre-completion that we knew could be transferred. We made sure we checked all the terms, all that kind of stuff. So again, we just used that as a reduction in our initial outlay, so we could spread the deal over 5 years, because they were a bit restrictive on how much they wanted to spread, but that gave us the option just with some interest charges. This just mean we've been able to not actually put in as much money as we would have had to, but
and also with the refinance you can get anything back out as well. That would obviously be a very important part of it. So you've 5x'd in 15 months. What's the plan for the next couple of years?
So we've had probably a little bit of a lull over the last 3 months, I would say, where it's been a bit of consolidation, because they all happened quite quickly. I know I say 15 months, some of that was going through they were all share purchases. None of them were asset purchases, which I'm desperate to do, an asset purchase, just to have that under my wing. But and I know that a lot of businesses and the guys in our groups, they've obviously done lots of asset purchases, but because of the way the training is linked to certain registers and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you often need to do to get the contracts. You need to do a share purchase.
I agree. Yeah.
Sorry, what was? Oh yeah. So where we're going?
Yeah, where we're going.
So we've had a bit of a lull where we've actually been just integrating and getting the systems and everything and making sure everything's settled across the board. Really, we've now got the FD coming on to help us nail down the next sort of round of funding. We are still sending campaigns out to try and take on more businesses. We're being a bit more picky, I think. We were picky. We turned so many more down than
but you're probably even more focused on your criteria. Would you say that your criteria around size has changed?
Yeah, definitely. We'd be looking for around that million plus revenue businesses as our ideal. We're not going to rule out anything, but we won't be going anything under 500,000 in terms of revenue size. Where before we were a bit more open to that. We want a team in place. We don't want to start building teams, which we've had to do where there's been an owner trainer in two cases. Our due diligence has got better, I think. So we are still.
Oh, Andrew, I've lost you. Okay, let's just get the signal back. Hopefully, Andrew, we lost you for a moment. I'm not sure what that was, but go back about 15 seconds for us, would you?
Oh God.
so I think it was about management and systems, buying businesses with systems.
So we put in the system, or we're putting in a lot of the systems. Just making sure everything's aligned really is our focus, and has been for the last couple of months. But we are still sending letters out to make further acquisitions, but we're being picky around making sure they've got teams in place, making sure there's management, making sure the revenues are a decent size. And the due diligence, we asked lots of questions in the initial due diligence that we did, but we're now getting really, we know exactly what questions we need to ask now, and actually can cut down the questions, because we were probably too worried at the start. Now we're less worried, but there's certain things we really want to clarify early.
So often with someone's first deal, their diligence is way out of line with the actual size of the deal.
Yes,
they know everything about everything, and you never know everything about everything. At some point, you've got to push the button on it. But now you're very focused on, I need to know these things, and everything else we can deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a bit like this with the legal side of things and the solicitors. I'm getting better at just asking what is the actual risk to that point, because sometimes we're fighting over little points that really there's not actually, or the chances of that ever happening are really low. So so we're not being so panicky, I would say, as we were in those early days. But yeah, going back to your actual question, so our focus has been there. We're still looking for those ones, but we think we need to do 6 acquisitions over the next 12 to 18 months again, and we reckon they can get up to sort of 10 million revenue, 20 million EBITDA, and then we want to exit probably at
2 million
point.
EBITDA. So 10 revenue, 2 million EBITDA, and well, I mean, at 2 million EBITDA, that's that has the right level of profitability for private equity to be interested.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and that's the point. We'll look at our options at that point, I think.
Yeah, no, that's really, really excellent, Andrew. So it's a bit of a leading question, I suppose, but I want to tell everyone about the fast track in a moment.
Yeah.
So for someone who's been around me and Dealmakers for a year and a half,
year and a bit, yeah.
What would you say to people who are sort of sitting on the fence and have been attend these virtual conferences, but I think, do I push the button and do something with Jonathan?
Yeah, I think it's all about action, isn't it? And that's the rest of the journey is about action as well. So yeah, I think the first bit of action, it gave me the confidence I've been for an acquisition, but I didn't quite understand what I needed to do to make an acquisition in terms of I've been through the sales side of it. And we actually toyed with the idea when I was running the childcare business. We were trying to partner / acquire similar businesses, and now I know we were doing it totally wrong.
Right.
And yeah, this just gave us a structure, a format, a way to go forward, templates where we need them, that we could also amend and fit us. And I think the training, obviously the stuff you deliver is great. The speakers you bring in are great. Everything you provide in terms of the PowerPoints after the calls, and if you miss one of the calls or the virtual, the in-person meetings, there's always the video links was recorded, or you can attend live. So even when I've not been able to make them, I've still been able to catch up, and I'll listen on my dog walks, all that kind of stuff. So all that's kind of been invaluable, those bits. But even bigger, that's kind of not really sold is the group mentality.
Well,
so particularly with the
I was actually going to ask you that. I was going to say, if we place the knowledge piece aside and the confidence building aside, tell us about the actual being part of a.
It's been fantastic actually. In the early days, obviously the sort of mastermind and fast track groups were really beneficial to get going. But once we've made a couple, actually we needed, and I'm delighted you launched that inner circle thing, because that was the gap I think that we were experiencing. We were like, okay, we've done that bit, and it's still really good talking to all these people because people are doing it at different scales, and there's obviously people just starting out as well as people that have done it quite a few times. And we needed then that next level, and then the inner circle was launched, and that's been fantastic for us as well, because now we're talking to everyone in the rooms, acquire the business, and we're all having similar challenges, opportunities, and we're able to work through them. And so much value.
So just for the benefit of people who don't know how this works, so we have our 3-day fast track, which is low cost, gives you what you need to get started, and that's all some people need. All some people need are just that boost, that information piece, and some confidence building. And then some people want to do it as part of a group, and we've got our international mastermind, and we've got our live in London mastermind, and then we've got our inner circle group. And Andrew, you joined the first inner circle group. This is for people who've done deals, and there are 25 people in that group, and that group sold out just like that. We've now got a second group of 25 that's sold out just like that, because it's that sort of being part of a community of business buyers. It is as important as everything else, because no one wants to do it by themselves. Everyone wants to do it as part of a group, don't they?
Yeah, and it is holding us all accountable actually. And I know it was Philip, one of the guys in our group. He signed a deal on Saturday, and we're all in a WhatsApp. 25 of us are in a WhatsApp with Jonathan, and he shared the details of the deal. Well, actually, not so much the details on this one, but he will do it at our next meeting. But he shared that he had completed it, and we all kind of know a little bit about what's going on in each of our businesses, what our focus is. I mean, we've got one person who's on their the first one to then be on the other side of exiting from their buy and build strategy. So hopefully in the next meeting, there'll be
John. John. Yeah.
So hopefully he'll come forward with good news that he's made his first.
Absolutely. Well, he's just done another acquisition.
Yeah.
A big one. I think 2 million revenue from. Yeah.
I remember. I think that's when he said he was expecting to come on when we met last, and
right.
It was kind of a no-brainer because this is some information I got from him at lunchtime actually, because he was saying that he's buying at, let's say, 3 times multiple, but the acquirer that he's going through legals with at the moment are buying him at, I can't remember the multiple, let's say 5, just for ease. So in that time, so that business is going to be included in the 5. So he's making an extra on that business just by acquiring it during that sales cycle, which is,
so he may not even own it for more than a few weeks, but
exactly, and it'll be getting paid out at the 5 time, or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, whatever multiple it is that he's selling it.
So I mean, you came into this, with a bit of knowledge from sort of experiencing, from being acquired yourself, and it is all about knowledge and confidence and having that team. But I always think that it changes people as well. It kind of opens up new doors, a new way of being in business, because I've done the same as you, Andrew. I've been the guy turning up at the office every day, dealing with the problems, dealing with the hassles, and I've been on the other side where I've been a bit more distant from it and doing the acquisitions. And I guess that once you see there is a different way of being in business, everything, your future changes, doesn't it?
Definitely. More control. Definitely. And I think from my first business, I had grown it to a point where we had people in every position, and I was kind of out of the business, but still in it, in terms of we had an MD that was running it, but I was still in the office every day, but also managing my other businesses at the time. And we've done the same with the training. We have an MD, and we're starting to put in those other levels. But I think when I sold my childcare business, I'd gone from having kind of a full team that does everything to actually not having that anymore. And there was a bit of a lull where I was sending these letters out, doing something new. Now I have to deal with all the phone calls in from the letters and the acquisitions and the emails and all that sort of stuff, which then slows you down. But as we made the acquisitions, I've kind of been able to detach further from it again. Now one of the teams in the businesses, just one of the admin teams or customer service teams, they now take the calls from any potential sellers. I've given them a checklist of things they need to ask. Then it comes through to me. Then I can assess the deal and then go back in my own time on what's interested or interesting.
I think a lesson learned from your story today, Andrew, is that a lot can happen in a short space of time.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that 10-year journey.
No.
You can do it in a couple of years and really make a difference very, very quickly.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm 100% in agreement. And that's our big aim. We want to get to that 10 million, ideally within the next 12 to 18 months. And then no matter what we do, we're in a good position going forward.
Well, I look forward to being part of that journey.
Thank you. And thanks for all your help and support. It's been great.